Hey, coach.
Hi, Cindy.
Njani?
I'm good. Thanks, Unjaman.
I'm good.
How are you feeling? You just got back,
Yeah,
back-to-back gigs. So how are you feeling?
yeah, I'm tired. I am, yeah, it's a lot to reflect on, I would say, because I had different camps. I had, like different experiences with these different camps. And in the last couple of weeks, there's a lot to think about and there's a lot to still reflect on. Um, but I've had at least like an opportunity here and there to just like reflect a bit on certain processes I've done. So I've done like a grade 12 camp last week, and it was one of those camps where I felt anxious about. As a facilitator, you don't just come into a process, you prepare. In a bit like background, subconsciously you try and be ready for the process. So I was going through a lot of like preparing, and sometimes I found myself over preparing because it's one of those camps where it's not normal, it's not your normal camp. And you know but I got to understand in that whole process of me preparing, like it was not a bad idea to prepare, because at the end of the day I got to achieve what I've planned. And also working with the type of clients that we work with now, because I haven't done a lot of jobs working with our own schools.
Our own schools, what do you mean?
Our own schools in a sense that like public black schools, schools that I went to. I went to Langa High, schools like you went to. These are not the normal clients that I would work with, because I would work with multiracial schools and multicultural schools. Um, like just like people who are used to camps, who have culture of going to camps. And now it was a bit different in its matrix, people in their last year of high school.
So how different was it? How different was it from the camps that you normally usually do? Like, your Redemir, bishops. Like
Yeah.
how different? Yeah.
It was different in a sense that the cultures of the schools are different. Um, every school has its own culture and its own values, and especially with those schools that there's is what house is what house. There's a lot of grounded foundation in terms of how the school operates. So when you come in as a facilitator, there's already a foundation. And then in our schools, public, our government schools, you find out it's like generic. It's like, like it's generic in a sense that it's expected to be in a certain way because it's a government school, you know, and there isn't a lot of process into, or I won't want to say effort percent, but there isn't a lot of value, like embedded work into the school culture. Like I found, like myself, seeing myself in some of those kids when I was in Langa High, like nothing much has changed in terms of the cultures in schools, but it's just different teachers, it's younger teachers. And now with all the leniency that comes with discipline and all of those things, then you see that the younger teachers tend to like step back a bit. So now I think that's what is different between this generation and my generation. So those were one of the things that I got to experience, is that there's a difference between the multiracial schools, the culture, the values that the school instills before the kid gets to camp, and our schools. Now it's the camp becomes the beginning of that.
And also our schools, like public schools, these are grade 12s. If
Yes,
you compare if you compare if you compare them with other schools, they start going to camps at
early.
early, very early, so they're already familiar with the camp culture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And with them being familiar, it's like over time they get used to even you as a client. Like they know there's facilitators coming, and for each and every company that works with certain facilitators, this is their own culture. So then the cultures kind of like merge, and then it becomes a process that everybody is happy about. Whereas with our schools, it's like you are starting, now you are introducing a culture, not only a culture of facilitation and the process, but also the environment is different. It's not the environment that they are used to, because they are at school, they've never left school, like what you just said now. With multiracial schools, they leave school, they go to these camps from grade 4, grade 3. They grow up knowing every year we're going to this. It's not just an excursion, but it's a camp. And our schools, it's like we're going on a fun walk when you're in primary. Do donations, collect 2 rands, and then we go to a fun walk, and that's it. But the learning, the experiential learning of that excursion is not, like it's not something that the kids are used to or even familiar with. Yeah. So this was pretty much an eye opener, coming into this particular camp that I'm talking about, because we already did a previous camp with the same school. So now we had to pick up where we left off, and with a different team, with different leadership. So it became a challenge, in a sense, for me, in a good way as well, because as a facilitator, I had to not only be a facilitator, but I had to be a role model. I had to be a leader at the very same breath in an unfamiliar, like working environment, even though it's still camp. I was also in a new campsite. So I came in there prepared, but I also allowed myself to learn.
So when you went into the process, did you went into the process anticipating that it's going to be different from what you are used to, or you got surprised when you got there?
I would say because there was a first camp that happened. So I basically took those experiences and I kind of like, scrutinized, at the back of my mind, in terms of what can we improve? What can I improve? What difference can I make? And definitely, I had to go in with a different strategy. I had to go in with a different mindset as well. The first process of it was like, okay, I'm here. Let me see, let me blend in, let me adjust, let me adapt. But then the second time with the same school, I was like, okay, now what change am I bringing for the best of the students, for the best of the clients? And then that's where my mind was in. So I didn't just like, okay, cool, I'm here now, like let's see what happens. I had to come in knowing already what I'm trying to achieve, into that process. And luckily for me, it was not the first time with that particular client, so it wasn't a shock to, so I because I had to come prepared. Yeah. So I had 2 runs, so which made things a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I would have a third client now that is like that,
Yeah, you'd be even more better. You'd be better.
I'll be
because,
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you were doing back-to-back trainings since
Since beginning of March.
beginning of March. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how what is your process? How do you prepare for these processes, energy-wise? Because they require energy.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for them?
Your energy wise, I don't want to lie, like, rest is one of the priority. And I think at the back of my mind, I always, when I'm getting booked, I always make sure that I've, even if it's 2 days, even if it's one day, to rest. And I've been trying not to do back to back, in a sense that coming straight from another camp and going straight to another camp. It almost happened. It almost happened this weekend, but it got cancelled. So now I also, because our bodies work differently and our minds work differently. Some people, would rather use that time, going out. Other people would like, I'm gonna rest, I'm gonna sleep, because it's me time. And then get into it. Other people do back to backs, but for me, my energy comes from rest, so that I can be able to plan for the next thing that is coming up. and my mind would be at ease, because then if I'm tired, I'm not able to give my 100% into the next process, or into the next camp, or into the next, team building. Then it becomes sort of like I'm just there, but I know deep down I'm not giving the 100%. So hence, it's important not to just do it for money. When you're really passionate about it, you do take the time and you find ways and create strategies in terms of, where do I draw my energy to give the 100% that I need to bring. Yeah.
Nutrition wise, is there something that you eat? Is there a concoction that you drink? Is there anything that you drink, like to keep your energy levels up?
Yeah, at camp it's hard. Like when you're at camp, it's really hard to keep with your diet. It's really hard because, like at home, I eat veggies, and then you see, like, the energy is different. Like, obviously, when you eat, like healthier food, the energy is mostly there most of the time. But then at camp, because of you're so busy, then there's camp food, like pasta. You hardly get rice at camp. You can't hardly get the food that you want to eat. They try and accommodate. Yeah, if you're a vegetarian, you're vegan, they try, but most of the time we all settle for what the menu is, and but you find your ways around it. But most of the time, it's like mainly 1 or 2 meals. And then, because of we're there for 2.5 nights or 3 nights, you just need to adjust and limit yourself portions and all of that. So what I do, I try by all means not to have a lot, because you eat like 6 times a day, but you're so hungry because you're in motion, you're burning all of that energy, all of those calories. So it's easy to just lose yourself, and lose your diet because of you're hungry, you're working, the energy, you're burning a lot of calories, you're walking, you're hiking. The day is long. Sometimes you end at 11. You snack, there's sweets, there's that. But I try by all means and try to stay hydrated more than anything. And snacks I can skip, but then the big meals, because that keeps me going also for the next day. And sleep. Sleep is another thing, because sometimes as facilitators, we just talk all night. And sometimes we debrief all night, depending on what happened. But we forget about our sleep, because you have to be up before the clients or the students are up when you're at camp. So now now it tempers with with your sleep and your energy for the next day. And you have to be the one that is doing exercises the next day.
No, sleep is important. I was doing it last year, the 5 a.m. club routine.
Oh yeah, you've been doing that lately.
Yeah. So is it 2 weeks ago? I got back into the routine, and I sleep at 10, and then I wake up at 5, and I'm feeling the difference. So,
do you feel more energetic?
Yeah. I feel more energetic.
Some people wouldn't do 5 a.m.
5 a.m. Yeah. So I sleep from 10, latest 11. But I try to go to bed at 10.
But what do you do at 5 a.m.? Like, maybe another person would be like, okay, waking up at 5, but what do I do?
5 a.m. basically you are setting yourself up for the day. So you are investing you are it's like a gift that you give to yourself,
like a reward.
Like,
okay,
when the first thing that you wake up, the first thing that I do when I wake up is to invest time to Temgos.
Okay.
You understand? So it's like, it's like an act of self-love. So it's that hour. So it's 20 minutes of workout, 20 minutes of meditation, and 20 minutes of reading.
Okay.
It could be reading or listening to a podcast.
Does music count?
Yeah.
Meditation, any form
of meditation. You can walk, you can breathe and stuff. So it's 20 minutes of workout, 20 minutes of you can even contemplate, like 20 minutes, or you can, and then 20 minutes of education. So that's what I do. So it's because we are available for other people's demands, but we are never there for ourselves. So that hour, it sets you up. you know. So when you are done, like when I'm done now for that hour, like I'm fired up, I'm motivated. So for example, if you do it from Monday to Tuesday, so it's 20 minutes of reading.
Yeah.
That's 20 times 5. That's like 100 minutes of reading a week.
A week.
Yeah, that's 20 minutes of your workout times that by 5. You understand? And that's 100 hours of your workout, you know. So it's those small wins. When you do them over time, you know, you will see results. And for me, I'm already seeing results. The way the quality of your ideas that I'm generating, you know, and also the amount of like for example, now yesterday I started reading 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and I'm currently on page 100.
And you did that in those 20 minutes every morning?
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, you know, even during lunchtime, I read.
Okay.
But the 5 a.m. club act as a catalyst. It boosts
Okay.
me and stuff, you know. But since when it comes to books, because I listen mostly to a podcast, so for me, I'm not a speed reader. But due to 5 a.m. club, that's where I'm at. Like
Yeah.
a book, like within.
And when did you start this book?
Yesterday.
Wow.
Yesterday, it's
Wow.
got 595 pages, and I'm on 110
Wow.
something.
That is quick though.
Quick,
for
yeah.
for someone who's not
Exactly, I'm
a
not a
speed
quick
reader.
speed reader, so I think in a week I'll be done.
Would you
I'll be able now to read due to 5 a.m.
Yeah.
club. I'll be able to read 4 books
Yeah.
a month.
But would you advise like a person if they like, let's say they want to get into that routine? Because I know at camp, yes, we do wake up early sometimes because our body clock starts to adjust, because especially if you do back to back. But now I don't want to read for the sake of reading. Like, would you advise that I would have to read something that I'm passionate about? Because there's like abanye bantu, like they get, I'm like, okay, I'm reading, but it's just a book, you know, like there's nothing, but I'm reading for understanding, of course, but is it advisable to read something that I'm passionate about, something that I'm going to use, something, you know, that is going to have impact?
For me, where I'm at now, like, I mean, people can do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not in a position to tell people what to do.
Yeah.
But for me, whatever that I do, it needs to, because I'm living an intentional life, it needs to take me closer to something. So if I'm reading a book, like for example now, we're currently building online businesses, you know. So for me, when I was listening to a podcast, I think last week 4 people recommended this book.
Yeah,
For
the one
our
that
work
you're
with-
reading
yeah,
now.
Yeah, well, so
Yeah.
it's a recommendation from a podcast that I was
Watching.
I was watching, and it's in line with the direction that I'm currently taking. So everything that I'm doing now, it's in line with where I'm going. It's in line with my goals.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So for yeah. So but people can read whatever they want to read.
Yeah.
But now I do not read anything that is not going to take me closer to where I want to get.
How do you prepare for your team builds? And I know you've got quite a few jobs coming up.
Yeah,
and
I've got a job on the 26th. Then I've got 4 jobs on the 29th, 30th, 31st, and the 1st. So back to back. And I run these trainings. These are full day trainings. I run them myself from 10 till 4
on your own.
on my own.
How do you prepare?
I mean, for me, I work out, you know,
Yeah.
like I work out. I don't run at the moment, but I walk a lot. Like safari, our dog, I take long walks with the safari. I'm hydrated all the time, and also I do these processes in my head before I do them.
Does the garden help?
Yeah, gardening is part of being active, you know.
Yeah.
So during gardening, I'm going through, you know, the stories that I want to tell, the jokes that I want to tell, you know, the analogies that I want to use. So me going through the process in my head is part of the preparation, so that when I get there, it's something that I've done
Yeah.
it before. So for me, it's because I remember this is something that I've been doing for years. I remember the first time I went to run a comrades marathon, a week before, because I was so anxious, I decided to go on YouTube to look at the route. So there was a footage here route. So I watched that footage, like in terms of all those hills, and then I started imagining myself
Running
running.
it.
And then the
Wow.
next day I woke up with
The cramps.
cramps. Because that's how the mind is.
Yeah,
You see,
some.
when you go deep into it, the mind doesn't know the difference between an imagination or the real thing. So ever since I've used that, so for me, I run the thing in my head, like the one on the
Yeah.
26th. I'm ready. Like I've done it so many times in
Yeah.
my head, so I'm ready. So I don't have to be ready when I get there.
Yeah.
I just dive straight into it.
Wow.
So for me, it's the visualization and the
Visualization.
imagination. So I use that a lot,
Yeah.
and also the experience as well. You know,
Yeah.
when you've been doing it for a very long time, when you get there, the body knows what time it is.
Yeah.
When you get there, it's like, okay, let's go. And also the passion,
Yeah.
it pushes you.
It's a driving force.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
driving,
yeah,
and passion keeps you going, even
yeah,
if you like. Okay,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm 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 tired physically,
yeah,
but it
yeah,
keeps you
yeah,
going.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, so for me, yeah, that was my experience so far and
yeah,
reflection, and I'm still gonna reflect on the one that I just came on. Had grade fours. Yeah, so I'll just reflect. I need some time because I just got back. You know, that's what something I normally do. I also debrief with myself internally. You know, and then I always look at, you know, like what happened, what did I learn, and all of that stuff. So there's still more time for me to reflect. But yeah, so far so good.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, sure.